Hi, my name is Hazuki. I'm an inline figure skater and a figure skater, and today I want to remake one of my old videos. Now, if you know how to spin in these already, it's probably going to be easier to spin in these. If you don't, that's okay. I can still help you, hopefully. But if you do have a little bit of experience on ice, it's probably going to be a little bit easier. Now, as a quick disclaimer here, I am not an inline coach. I'm not a figure skate coach. I don't really have any solid qualifications. I am a self-taught skater of 2 or 3 years now. I skate on Snow White Inlines, which is a 3-wheel inline figure skate boot, and I've never tried skating in 4-wheel inlines. So while these concepts should in theory work, I can't say definitively that they will. If this is your first time inline skating, please learn how to fall properly. That sounds weird. I promise you will not regret it. Learning how to fall properly has probably saved me from, broken joints and broken bones and crap, which sounds kind of gruesome when you think about it. Learning how to fall properly will help you in the long run, and I promise that. Please learn it properly. If you can, from a trusted professional. This is not something I'm going to teach you because I don't know how to teach how to fall, and I don't want people getting hurt on account of my stupidity and hubris. With that out of the way, here are a couple things you probably want to know before you start spinning. First of all, you're going to want to know your basics on how to place a toe stop. The toe stop gets really important really quickly when you start spinning on inlines, so you're going to want to have it in the right spot. I have a video for that up here or here. Next, you're going to want really good edge control. Now, I don't mean this in the sense like you need to make sure you have all of them like perfect or whatever, but you should be able to have a fairly decent concept of how to do outside and inside edges and how to tell them apart. I guess my only piece of advice here is bend your knees. That almost always applies to making your edges better. I have a video for that up here if you want some simple and easy exercises to help you improve your edges. Now, my edges suck in that video, so take everything I say with a grain of salt, right? But having clean edges is really important. Next, I know I'm throwing a lot at you, I'm sorry. You also want to make sure you have your 3 turns and probably your mohawk. I don't have a video for mohawks here, but you can just find like any generic figure skating mohawk tutorial and they tend to work. But make sure you know how to do basic turns on your inlines, because otherwise you will not be able to exit or enter your spin. Also, the scratch spin entrance is kind of reliant on the fact that you know how to do 3 turns on your spinning leg. Now, I know that sounds like a lot to learn, especially if you're just beginning. If you work on it consistently, you'll be able to get it eventually. But these are basic fundamentals of just normal inline skating, inline figure skating, and figure skating. These are just good things to know if you're going to be skating on wheels, so I recommend you check those out if you haven't already. Now to the actual fun part. When you want to learn how to spin on inlines, you want to make sure that you are learning to progress from easier things to harder things. So first, we're going to start with a 2-foot spin. Another disclaimer here, my forward scratch spin is on my left leg. I think that's counterclockwise spinning. Yeah, that's counterclockwise spinning. If you are a clockwise spinner, if you do your forward scratch spin on your right leg, you're gonna want to flip everything I say. I'm so sorry. To be fair, people who spin counterclockwise and on their left, I believe is the dominant. It's kind of like being the righty of spinning in figure skates. So everything I'm saying is applying to a forward scratch spin on your left foot. So first, you want to do your 2-foot spin. The way to progress into your 2-foot spin is by first learning how to lift the heel of your left foot and the toe of your right foot. It sounds kind of complicated sometimes. It's not, I promise. And just learn how to pop that. Go onto it for a second and then come back down. Once you get comfortable just popping the heel and the toe, you are going to want to try to do a quarter turn. Now, this is when you're going to start turning, and it's a little bit scary. If you have a railing or a chair or a wall or a person that you can hang on to, it'll make it infinitely easier. Of course, I practiced this in my bedroom. I had my bed to fall onto, and that was a huge help. Not really recommending that, but it is nice to have something to brace yourself up against. So again, lifting your left heel and your right toe, try to do a quarter spin to your left. Keep doing quarter turns until you get comfy doing quarter turns, and then move on to half turns. From half turns, you can move on to either full turns, or if you're not really feeling up to it, then 3/4 turns. Take your time learning these. It's entirely dependent on how comfortable you feel in your skates at this moment. Take a deep breath. It's not a competition. Just take your time to learn these fundamentals because it'll help you in the long run, I promise. Now, once you can do a single revolution on both your feet, you can start progressing into doing multiple turns. This is where you kind of like start feeling like that rush and like the hair whipping around, and like it's the feeling of actually like kind of being able to learn how to do spins again. This is when it starts getting a little bit more fun. So now you've got your 2-foot spin. This is when it starts getting a little bit easier because now you're used to spinning. Here's the scary part. You're going to want to start lifting your right leg into a 1-foot spin. I wouldn't really recommend doing a 2-foot spin and then lifting your leg just because you're going to have your weight centered, and then moving that to the side is going to make you fall. So after getting your 2-foot spin, the first step in getting your 1-foot spin is to start from a pivot entrance. Now, different regions and different countries and different people call it different things. You might call it like a pump, you might call it a push, you might call it a pivot. There's a lot of different names. Basically, you're going to want to anchor your spinning foot and push or pivot or pull or whatever you call it into doing a 1-foot spin. The first little bit that you're trying this, it's not gonna look pretty. I'm gonna say this upright. It's not gonna look pretty, but trust yourself, it'll look good eventually. This is kind of more about getting you used to spinning on 1 foot. Now, the biggest problem people make here is putting too much weight onto your toe stop. Now, your toe stop is this little rubber thing we got here. You can tell that mine is really worn down, and it's because I do a lot of spins. And while you are only leaning on your toe stop and your first wheel when you are spinning, you're going to want to try to shift as much of your weight over the wheel as opposed to the toe stop as possible. Now, you're gonna have to use your toe stop anyways because like balance, because you're gonna topple over otherwise. You can't just spin on one wheel. You want to touch the toe stop as little as possible. Again, it's like it wears down for a reason. You're still gonna have a fair bit of weight on your toe stop, but you're not spinning on your toe, right? You're spinning on the wheel, in theory. Now, if you're a figure skater that already learned how to do a single foot spin, you might want to take your free leg and cross it over your skating leg. Don't do that yet. The thing about inline spins is that they're very, I wouldn't call it fragile, but their balance is hard to pinpoint. Once you fall out of the sweet spot, it just gets worse. So wrapping your leg around while you're still kind of pivoting and learning how to spin on your 1 foot is not gonna bode well. It's gonna make it a lot harder to learn the spin for you, so just hold off on that. Just hold your leg off to the side like a flamingo does, and don't cross over your leg yet. There'll be tips and stuff at the end of this video, but right now we're just doing progressions. After you learn the pivot entrance to a spin, and you feel comfortable doing that, and you feel like you're actually getting a little bit of speed and a little bit of like actual spin happening, you're going to want to switch over into doing an actual entrance to your spins. Now, if you're a figure skater, you might have the instinct. Again, this depends on the club and your coach and how you've learned it. You might have the instinct to do crossovers into your right inside edge and then step into your left spin. Don't do that on inlines. I mean, you can and it's possible, but just that shift of momentum is not as ideal on inlines as it is on ice. A better way of entering these spins is if you actually hold an outside back edge with your right foot or your free foot, which will draw out kind of a 3 pattern with your 2 feet. That way, when you do swing your leg and wrap your leg around your skating foot, it tends to shift the momentum and your center of gravity a little bit smoother, and it gives you a little bit more control over the power that you're pushing into the spin. Unlike ice spins, you're going to need to push into the spin, if that makes any sense. A lot of the times when you're spinning on ice, the amount of effort it takes to do a fast, clean spin is a lot less than on inlines. As an asterisk here, when you go back on ice, if you're a figure skater, be careful of that. I made a habit of pushing into my spins, and then when I got back onto ice, I kept falling because I'd like bend my knees too much and I push way too far into the spin, and then I'd just have these crazy uncontrollable spins everywhere. It was really bad. It fixes itself eventually. It's not something to be worried about. Just keep that in your mind. The amount of force that your free leg puts into the spin is different across ice and inline. So again, with a right back outside edge, push it into your spin. For those who haven't figure skated before, the way you want to think about it is you're on your right foot, you do a curb here, you switch off to your left foot, doing a semicircle, you do a 3 turn, and then you start spinning. That's essentially the basics of how to do an inline figure skate spin. Now, if you are a figure skater, you'll realize, hey, this is actually kind of similar. Yes, but no. When you are spinning on ice, you're going to be putting your weight kind of here-ish. You don't do that with inlines. You actually shift your weight closer to the toe on inlines. If you were to spin on like the ballish of your foot, you'd kind of be like hovering between the toe stop and the second wheel and just kind of teetering on your front wheel, and that's not how you spin on inlines. If you use that same technique on ice, it'd feel like you were digging your toe pick into the ice. Trust me, you're just going to want to shift your weight closer to your toe. Another thing that really helped is to imagine leaning kind of closer onto the inside of your foot. Again, for figure skaters, This kind of sounds like a no-no. You want to have like your weight fairly evenly on the ball of your foot, but if you're spinning on inlines, you want to shift it closer to the inside of your foot. When you spin on figure skates, you kind of center your spin and you have like a single point at which you're spinning. When you're spinning on inlines, it's not that. When you're spinning on inlines, you're gonna travel. Just the mechanics of how you spin is different, so you tend to travel a lot more, and you tend to spin around a point rather than spinning on the point. Take that as you will, I guess. Another thing that really helps, which sounds a little bit weird, is to bend your spinning foot. I'm not sure about other people, but I have a really bad tendency to lock my left leg into being like super straight after the entry of my spin. So I would enter it with my leg slightly bent, and then I'd kind of like turn into like a friggin' vegetable stalk and like just straighten up, right? You don't want to do that. Bending your spinning foot throughout the spin and then slowly extending it rather than snapping into it after your entry actually really helps keep the stability of your spin. When you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. If you have your bent knee, then you're gonna have a lot more control over like where your weight is on your foot and across the blade. It almost helps to exaggerate how bent you are, which sounds weird, but if you bend it slightly more than you would normally, it does seem to help. And then you don't even have to like fully extend it at the end of your spin. Just like keep it slightly bent. You do have a lot more control over where your weight is, and that seems to help a lot with spins. Now this is a little bit more maintenance related. When you're spinning, it wears down your wheels really quickly. If you don't notice, you can get really tiny front wheels. Yeah, you can't see it, but my front wheel right now is actually super duper worn, and I do need to rotate these after I finish filming. The front wheel of your spinning leg is going to wear down really quickly, and the inside is going to wear down a lot faster than the outside, so you want to make sure that you're flipping those wheels as well. Keep an eye out for how quickly they're wearing down, because I promise you they will wear down faster than you think. I haven't talked about it too much here, but make sure that you're not like hunching forwards. I know that personally I have a tendency to do that, just like sitting down or talking to a camera or skating, but make sure that you have your shoulders back, your head nice and level, your arms out, and make sure that you are maintaining really good posture, because again, if you hunch over, your spins are gonna be crap. Don't underestimate how effective and helpful your arms are when you're spinning. Just keep the back of your mind on it, just to make sure that you're not like slouching over. Now, sit spins and camel spins. These are tough, especially if you're used to doing them on figure skates. Like it's weird putting your weight over your toe. It's really weird. I personally had a lot of issues with like balancing my camel and my sit spin over my toe. It just feels wrong, and it feels like it's really unstable. Like I said earlier, make sure you're wearing protective gear like helmet, elbow guards, wrist guards, knee guards, like the works. When you're starting out your camel spin especially, you're gonna fall. I'm sorry to say this, but you're gonna fall. Make sure that you are protected and you're prepared. Little tip for sit spins, I guess. If you swing your leg into your sit spin, you're kind of taught a lot of the time, especially when you're starting out in a sit spin, to do an upright spin and then slowly go into a sit spin position. Don't do that, because you're gonna lose your speed and you're gonna lose your center. If you just kind of swing your leg into the sit spin position through the spin, that tends to really help both stabilize it and give it a lot of momentum and speed, which helps with, keeping it spinning for longer and a lot better. I hate to say it, but this isn't something you can learn in an afternoon, especially without figure skating experience. This took me 6 months to learn properly. I don't know how accurate that is. So it should be mentioned that I was flipping between inline and ice a fair bit as well, back when like ice was a thing that was available often. Remember those days? The whole Rome wasn't built in a day. It's not something you can just get in an afternoon, especially if you don't have experience, but it is something that is possible. You can do it. It'll just take time and effort. Have a good playlist on standby, I guess. Be patient. Figure skating, and especially inline skating, if anything, have taught me how to be a patient person and how to be resilient, because oh boy, the number of times I have failed or fallen. It's a lot. It's been a lot. I feel like that's a really discouraging note to leave this on. It's possible. I'm self-taught. I did technically take learn to skate lessons, didn't technically finish them because the season ended before it could, and I missed about a third of my lessons, but that's the story for another time. It is possible to learn without having a coach. Again, I don't recommend it if you can help it, whether it be a financial situation, a social situation, like just like geographical, not having any coaches or rinks near you type of situation. Like I know a lot of people, it's really hard to get a coach. But yes, if you can help it, get a coach. If you can't, it's still possible to learn stuff. Just be extra careful. As I often say, please be careful about parasocial relationships. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, all that fun stuff. It's possible. You can do it. You've got this. Let me know of anything I've missed, any questions or comments you have down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.